All right, in the last video, we talked about derivatization, and we were like, hey, this is what we can do, and we can make our spots show up a little bit better, a little bit easier, a little bit quicker, and I can image them, and I can do RF calculations all day long. It sounds so fun. Yay! All right, so that's what derivatization was all about, and we're like, hey, in order to do derivatization, we're going to have a reagent, and that reagent's going to have to be coming in contact with our components in some form or fashion, and then it's going to change those components in such a way that we can see different image results that happen after the fact. So the idea here was, how do we apply the derivatizing agent? Number one, we said use perfume bottles back in the old Western saloons. So and then spray it all over the place and you'll be fine. Next up, we said that we can use some type of auto sprayer, and that's great, but I'm going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a sprayer that's like a hairspray nozzle, and then if I'm not very careful, the clog is going to stop up the nozzle, and now it's going to ruin the plate, actually not make it better. And then number three, we said we can auto dip, so I can do a dunk tank, throw the balls at Tracy that's sitting on the ledge, and make him dunk into the liquid, and maybe that liquid's water, but he'll find out. Well, okay, if you do a dunk tank, that's fine. But we said you get one dunk and one dunk only. After that, you're too wet to be dunking again and again and again. So you got to get out of there. If not, it actually will slop off the silica into the bottom of the dunk tank or onto the lab countertop, wherever you're deciding to work. So this is what we went through in the last video. And in this one, I want to talk about the manual one again. Just to kind of give you an idea of what's there. I also said that something wasn't quite universal, but you're going to see that this description will slightly change here for just a little bit. But what you're seeing here is a manual spray chamber. So I see a plate. That plate is on a holder, and that plate is kind of up-faced. So that way I've got the opportunity to take the sprayer and go from the side, not from the top down. Things begin to leak that way if we're not very careful. It also is inside of a chamber, and the chamber's purpose is to make sure that that stuff doesn't go everywhere. I don't want it all over the countertop. I don't want it over my lab partner that's beside of me or across, the lab countertop from me. I don't want to be spraying things that should not be sprayed. I don't want to be kind of hitting computer systems or any other type of laboratory tools that we have in the work area that I am spraying these things under. Also, it is very common to do these under a fume hood, and that fume hood is going to help it keep even more contained. But also, I don't want the fume hood to be sprayed and splattered with all these derivatizing agents due to somebody being sloppy. I want you to think of like graffiti. If I give you some hair or some paint spray cans, and I'm like, go to town, well, you're probably going to be very clean, and you're going to make sure that you don't get it everywhere, or you're going to be the sloppy person, and it's going to get all of your hands, all of your fingers, up underneath your fingernails, all of your clothes, all of your face, all of your hair. Who knows what's going to happen? You have not handled that spray the right way. And we've got people that work in the lab in both of those sectors or both of those groups. So a manual spray chamber looks something like this. One of a derivatizing agent could be a 50% sulfuric acid water solution. So sulfuric acid is mainly running up in the almost 100% pures. I mean, we very often see like 98, 99% sulfuric acid. So this is a half and half, you might as well say. Round it off, make it easy for yourself. So about a half and half concentration of sulfuric acid in water. Put your plate in a spray chamber like that. Heat at 240 degrees for 10 minutes. And what will happen is that all of your bands will turn eventually black, and you'll be able to see those a little bit better. So the idea here is to set up a spray chamber, get my 50-50 sulfuric acid water mix, spray the surface of the plate. It doesn't take a lot. Just get it wet. Just make sure that that stuff gets in there and onto the surface all the way across the plate. Then after you get finished spraying, place it in the oven, heat it, and notice the temperature. It's 240 degrees. Folks, that's very hot. Most of our temperatures of our ovens are 105 to 110. That is what we keep our drying ovens at. We can go hotter. We do go hotter. And we have went very commonly up to 180 before, depending on the method that we're doing. But very rarely do we go over the 200 mark, folks. This is a super hot oven that we are placing this plate on the inside of. So it's basically decomposing. That's kind of what's going on here. It's decomposing our sample components that are present, and it's somewhat charring them, and that char is showing up as a black spot or black bands. You can increase the sensitivity of this if you incorporate potassium dichromate. That potassium dichromate, it is a 5% potassium dichromate, 40% sulfuric acid, heat for 10 minutes at 200 degrees, and then away you go. So if you look at this, we've kind of scaled back on the concentration of sulfuric. And folks, this is a extra kind of reagent that we are spraying on the surface of these plates. That dichromate is now going to help react with the sulfuric acid and the components that's on your plate, and you can see them a little bit better. This does work very well for most things. Most things that we are interested in are going to be organic based, some type of an organic structure. If it is there, sulfuric acid, the dichromate, the heat, it does a very good job detecting them. They need to be there, though, in a concentration that is not going to be very, very tiny, right? You need it kind of to be there. It needs to kind of show up. It needs to be some of the major components that are inside of that sample. But if you're working at very, very low concentration levels here, the sulfuric acid dichromate mix might not be a good choice for you. It still might not show up. You still could miss it. And that is where other derivatizing agents are going to come into play. So while we say this works for pretty much everything, it still does not work for everything. It's still not universal. And it's only really good in concentrations that are going to be a little bit beefier, a little bit heftier that are present. So things like part per billion type of stuff, I'd probably stay away from this. There's other reagents that we can use that will maybe help that process a little bit more. This is what the perfume bottle looks like. So this is what an automated sprayer is. Notice that the amber bottle here, because some things are light sensitive, the amber bottle is right there. That's going to kind of take our liquid solution that we are doing. There's a couple of nozzles. That's what a nozzle looks like. There's one already attached to that bottle. You get two different nozzles. One is going to be for a low viscous and one is going to be for a high viscous on the K-Mag system at least. So low viscosity would be things like water and anything that runs much thinner. So we've talked about this before. We also said that viscosity, if it goes up a little bit greater, it clogs up the nozzle a little bit more. So K-Mag has decided to give you an extra nozzle that is for that purpose. So if things are very viscous, it will tend to spray those on a little bit better. That's great. It's still going to clog, though, if you don't clean them, if you don't take care of them. And that's really kind of part of this. It is the maintenance and the cleaning that has to happen after the fact. No one enjoys doing it, but it's got to be done. It does spray it on in a very fine mist. So unlike a cologne, you can maybe feel wetter spots on the surface of your skin or see it on your clothes, and then smaller misty kind of particles happening everywhere else. Those are not like scientific nozzles. Those are nozzles, they do a good job, but these nozzles are going to have to really truly turn everything into a fine mist because we want it all uniform. This thing also is going to apply a set volume. What that means is that set volume, we're going to say 3 milliliters and no more. So it will squirt out into a mist, 3 milliliters of liquid solution. And then we just hope for the best. We hope that everything comes in contact with it. We hope that things begin to turn, things begin to react with it. That is what a HPTLC sprayer looks like. Here is a dunk tank. And this dunk tank, again, we've got one of these in our lab areas. You attach the plate, so you can see the plate kind of on the hanger. It's like an old-fashioned clothespin, so it's just kind of hanging there on the clothesline. And then there's a couple of knobs up here at the very top. This first one is a time, and that time in meaning is how many seconds do you want it to stay in the solution. Once it lowers, do you want it to stay in there 1 second, no seconds, 5 seconds? What do you want? And then the next one is the speed, and this is how fast you want it to lower and how fast you want it to pull up. So do you want it to go like turtle slow, or do you want it to go like beep beep, Very fast, very quick, and you just want a brief moment in time for that silica to come in contact with that derivatizing agent. So you do have some of those setting parameters up on the top. This piece is normally not connected to a computer, the version that you see here in the picture. This is just kind of sitting over to the side. It just operates with the push of a button. That's all that you got to do. It's not connected to a software system. It's not going to kind of have a computer relay that's going to tell it how fast or how slow. These are more manual settings that you have to do on the dipper, is what I'm going to call this. The more appropriate term here is immersion tank. That is what KMAG calls them. That's what we should be using. It is an immersion tank, not a dunk tank, but I like to call it a dunk tank because that's exactly what it's doing. All right. And again, this tank that's sitting down here below, you see it looks like a little mini plate chamber almost in a way. This is going to hold 200 milliliters of liquid derivatizing agent. So whatever that might be, it could be clear. Maybe you won't see it. It looks just like water. It could have a colored solution. So for instance, like a copper-based salt could be in here, and that's going to look a little bit bluer. And then you're going to dip that into there, raise it up. I mean, these things can be anything that it wants. We have many choices as far as developing, or as far as derivatizing reagents go. After all of these are going to be applied in some form, in some fashion, after all of these kind of take part, there's going to be some kind of heating system. We talked about that as well, right? So heat is going to very often be included in the derivatizing step. Not every single time, but heat is a thing. And when it concerns heat, that's great. That's not a problem. But we need something that's going to control that heat a little bit more. We don't want to overheat the plates. We don't want it to get too hot. We want that temperature controlled in some form or some fashion. You can heat them in the oven. Absolutely, that's fine. You can heat them on a hot plate. That is not a big deal either. But you need to make sure that whatever you use is going to control the temperature for you. So there's got to be some type of temperature readout. It's got to control itself. If it realizes it gets too hot, it's going to have to be able to cool itself back down and really hang out at the temperature setting that you have requested it to heat at. If it cannot do that, it is not an appropriate plate heater. But there's also plate heaters that you can purchase with the instrumentation that you are using. This is KMAG's version. And again, it's just kind of a fancy little hot plate. And you can see the temperature readout down here in the bottom left-hand corner. And there's a temperature setting dial that's over there that turns up and down. And then there's an off and an on switch that is there. So not a big deal for the plate heater. Folks, this works. It will do its thing. That's not an issue. But they're going to be kind of pricey. And the reason is because they are giving you more control over the temperature that you are setting on these plate heaters. It's also going to really kind of zone in on that temperature. And it should not be fluctuating a lot. I mean, you might see like a 1 or 2 degree fluctuation difference. But other than that, folks, I mean, that is what it should be. I mean, it should be nothing more than that. But because of the control that this system has to put in place, they're going to be a little bit more expensive than a hot plate. And if you take a look at our hot plates on average are $500 to $750 a piece. These plate heaters are a couple of thousands of dollars a piece if you're not very careful. But that's what a plate heater is, and that's what it's all about. All right. Okay, so another thing that I want to show you is maybe a picture of the spray chamber, because I know that I kind of showed you this manual type of sprayer, but there's also a spray chamber as well that you can get on these HPTLC instruments that will be a little bit more self-contained, give you kind of an encasement to put the plate in, to spray into aerosol. And I want to show you what one of those looks like too. So let me kind of flip and I'll show you what that picture looks like. All right, guys, what you see on your screen, somewhat in the middle is the K-Mag derivatizer. That is what that spray chamber looks like. And you can see there's a plate on the very bottom. And then on the very bottom, you know, of course, that's where the samples are going to be, the components are going to be. And then it's going to spray this derivatizing agent onto the surface of the plate in a more kind of self-contained situation for you, instead of through the kind of old school perfume bottle, more manual type of sprayer. So that's kind of what's going to happen on the inside. Again, those things require some maintenance. You want to make sure those nozzles do not get clogged, because they easily can still get clogged. Absolutely, they can do that. But that's kind of what you're seeing here on your computer screen as of right now. I can go through and I can show you some of the other pieces and parts that the K-Mag system begins to have as far as derivatizing goes. But here, if I go kind of toward the top, you're going to see, if you visit the K-Mag's website, there's going to be different stages along the way. So application, development, derivatization, detection, an MS interface, which is mass spectroscopy, and then plate storage if you want to do things like add-ons or any kind of bells and whistles that you want. So under derivatization, if I click that, you're going to see, tells me a little bit about the derivatizing options that I have. Currently, as of right now, the thing that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, that is a derivatizer, but that's fully automated, and this is for their Pro system, which means that once the plate kind of starts and initiates, I don't really come in contact with that plate ever again. It will actually transfer the plate from one step to the next, to the next, to the next, and I'm not physically required to be there in order to transfer the plate from one module to the next. So in other words, I don't have to go in to the auto sampler, take the plate out with my own hands, walk it over to the developing chamber and put it into the developing chamber, and then initiate the software again. These things are all interconnected, and it will do that for me. So that's what that is over onto the left-hand side. The piece onto the right-hand side, that is the derivatizer. That's going to be, again, the more self-contained one. And then over on the right-hand side, that's kind of out of the screen a little bit, that is going to be the plate heater that we've already talked about and that we've already discussed. All right. Same way with development. If I click on the development piece, you're going to see our developer. You're going to see our automated, or I keep on saying our K-Mag. You're going to see K-Mag's Pro system. That's a developer. And then a couple of different options as far as the developers go. Again, bells and whistles, different things. We've talked about those. I've showed you pictures of those as well. And then under the application piece, you're going to see the same thing. So again, a Pro version of what is out there right now. Then you see the ATS4, which is the automated TLC sampler. And that's kind of what you've used in our lab. And then we've got the Linomat as well. That's, you know, not as automated. It requires a little bit more of you invested into the process. And we maybe have showed you how that works too. I just don't know, depending on the year, depending on the labs that we do. But folks, that's kind of what this is all about. So that's going to give you an idea of what the derivatizer is going to look like. And that derivatizer, again, very important. It is used in many different sample presses or sample processing. And that's okay. We just got to be ready for it. You know, maybe we get lucky and maybe we don't need a plate heater. Maybe we don't need a sprayer. Maybe we don't need derivatization. And that is an option sometimes, but very often not. So derivatizing is a very common step. And again, in real world, I follow the SOPs. I do what they tell me to do. I make sure that I know what to do. And that's really all that my job is. My job is not to figure out what the derivatizing solvent is going to be. My job is not to kind of figure out what is the best one, how much of it, what concentration. Those things have already been figured out. For lab workers, I just follow the directions, do what they tell me to do, and derivatize the plates. And that's it. That's all that I'm expected to do. And that's great, because that's less thought that I've got to put into the process. So thank you, instrumentation, for helping me out. But that is the world of derivatization.